The mechanism of lever from the first position of the breech. The first position of the breech, that is the left sacro-anterior. The first position of the breech is the left sacro-anterior. So we got to understand the lever, or we got to understand the mechanism. First for the buttock, the second for the shoulder, and the third for the head. So coming to the mechanism for the buttock, at the beginning you got to understand 4 points. So what are the 4 points you got to understand? The first one, that the sacrum is nearer to the left iliopubic eminence. The sacrum is nearer to the left iliopubic eminence, and the engaging diameter of the buttock is the bitrochanteric diameter, which is 10 cm. It is along the right oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis. And at this point of time, you should remember the shoulder is above, and the bisacromial diameter also along the left oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis. Now, with further contraction, the buttocks descend down, and when the anterior buttocks touches the pelvic floor, there occurs internal rotation of the buttock. Now, during the internal rotation, again you got to remember 4 points. What are the 4 points you got to remember during the internal rotation of the buttock? Now, the first one, the anterior buttock rotate forward a distance of 1/8 of the circle. The second one, the anterior buttock hinges behind the symphysis pubis, and it puts the bitrochanteric diameter along the anterior posterior diameter of the maternal pelvis. And you should remember, a torsion of 1/8 of the circle is still sustained in the trunk. So you should remember this formula of 4. At the beginning, you got to know the 4 points, or understand 4 points. What are those 4 points? I would like to repeat. The sacrum is nearer to the left iliopubic eminence, and the engaging diameter is the bitrochanteric diameter. The third point, it is engaged along the right oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis, and also you can see here the anterior buttock is nearer to the right iliopubic eminence, and the posterior, buttock is nearer to the left sacroiliac joint. So with further contraction, it descends down, and when the buttock touches the pelvic floor, there occurs internal rotation of the buttocks. So during the internal rotation, again you got to understand 4 points. What are those 4 points? Now, the anterior buttocks rotate forward a distance of 1/8 of the circle. And the second point, the anterior buttocks hinges behind the symphysis pubis. And the third point, it puts the bitrochanteric diameter along the anterior posterior diameter of the maternal pelvis. And you should remember the fourth point, a torsion of 1/8 of the circle is still sustained at the trunk. Now, with the further contraction, first the anterior buttock is delivered, followed by the posterior buttock. After the delivery of the buttock, the torsion which was sustained in the trunk gets released, and this is known as restitution. This is known as restitution of the buttock. Okay, restitution of the buttock. Okay. Now, coming to the buttocks goes to the original oblique position. Buttock goes back to the original oblique position. Now, understanding the mechanism for the shoulder. At the beginning, again you got to remember 4 points. पता लग जाएगी सर 5 मिनट फ्री हो चंदे कोई क्लास में चंदे कोई है ना. Again you got to remember 4 points. At the beginning. The anterior shoulder is nearer to the right iliopubic eminence. The posterior shoulder is nearer to the left sacroiliac joint. The engaging diameter is bisacromial diameter. It is 12 cm, and it is engaged along the left oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis. Got my point? With further contraction, the 4 points. Anterior shoulder nearer to the right iliopubic eminence. The posterior shoulder in front of the left sacroiliac joint. Engaging diameter, the bisacromial diameter is 12 cm. It is engaged along the left oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis. With further contraction, the shoulder descends down. When the shoulder touches the pelvic floor, there occurs internal rotation of the shoulder. During the internal rotation, you got to remember again 4 points. What are those 4 points? Now, the anterior shoulder rotates forward a distance of 1/8 of the circle. The anterior shoulder hinges behind the symphysis pubis. And it puts the bisacromial diameter along the anteroposterior diameter of the maternal pelvis. And due to internal rotation of the shoulder, the visible passive movement on the trunk is otherwise known as external rotation. Otherwise known as external rotation. You got my point? Now, first the posterior shoulder is delivered, followed by the anterior shoulder. After the delivery of the shoulder, the torsion which was sustained in the neck during the internal rotation of the shoulder is released, and the fetus goes back to the original oblique position, and this is known as restitution of the shoulder. Now coming to the mechanism of the head. Now at the beginning, again you got to remember 4 points. What are those 4 points? Now the occiput is nearer to the, or occiput is behind the left iliopubic eminence. The engaging diameter of the head is suboccipital frontal diameter. It is engaged along the right oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis, and you can see the occiput is nearer to the, or in front of the right sacroiliac joint. So the 4 points to remember: the occiput is behind the left iliopubic eminence. The sinciput is in front of the right sacroiliac joint. Engaging diameter is suboccipital frontal diameter. It is engaged along the right oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis. Got my point? With further contraction, the head descends down. So when the occiput touches the pelvic floor, there occurs internal rotation. During the internal rotation of the occiput, again you got to remember 4 points. Now, the occiput rotates forward a distance of 1/8 of the circle. The occiput hinges behind the symphysis pubis. And it puts the engaging diameter along the anteroposterior diameter of the maternal pelvis. And you can see a visible passive movement on the trunk, due to internal rotation of the head. That is known as external rotation of the trunk. And after the external rotation, the fetus looks towards the floor, and the back of the fetus looks towards the sky. Got my point? The fetus looks towards the sky, and the head is delivered by the flexion. The successive parts which are visible are the chin, the face, the brow, and the buttocks and the occiput. Thank you very much.